Last month, Huawei gave me just one of their new Mate 20 Pro phones, and there was a challenge with that gift. If I drop my iPhone and switch to Huawei Android, they will gift me this new phone. I've been using this phone for the last month, and I've made up my mind, and I'm gonna tell you which phone I picked and why. So first, let's start with the good. The battery on this phone is amazing. This phone has 2 full days worth of battery. I can get to the second day with 20% battery still on the phone, which is pretty impressive. That's something that I've never been able to achieve on any iPhone. The second good feature is the camera. There are 2 sides to this. Some features on the camera are better, some features are worse. But on the good side, there's the wide angle lens camera, which is truly amazing. It lets you take fantastic photos that you absolutely cannot replicate on a regular camera. The telephoto lens is 3x magnification instead of 2x. That's optical magnification, which is also really appreciated. It allows you to take pictures of distant objects with much better definition than what you can achieve on an iPhone. However, side-to-side comparison on camera, the standard 24mm camera is supposed to be 40 megapixels, but if you compare that to the iPhone camera, which is just like 12 megapixels, you really don't see 4x or 3x the definition. It's not there. So it's advertised as 40 megapixel, but in reality, it's not 3 times the definition. In general, the look and feel of the phone is very nice. It doesn't feel like a cheap phone by any means. The back of the phone is plastic. The screen is sort of curved, and it is sort of sharp in the edges. So that provides a much better grip. I don't feel like it's a phone that would slip away. The screen definition is really good. The size is really good. It's comfortable to hold in my pocket, which is something that I not necessarily felt with the larger versions of iPhone. Next up, there are some Android features that are really appreciated. Now remember, I'm an iOS user. I've been an iOS user since iPhone 4, so I've never really owned an Android phone. And there are some Android features that are really appreciated. So for example, apps like Facebook Messenger have a bubble that lives inside other apps. So you can pick up a Facebook Messenger conversation when you left off without having to switch apps in the traditional manner. That extra flexibility in the interface is appreciated. Next up, another feature that I really appreciated is the fingerprint sensor. There's a fingerprint sensor that's hidden behind the screen. So there's no physical button, there's no sensor behind the phone. It literally just sits in the middle of the screen. So unlocking the phone with that is very easy. This phone has both a fingerprint sensor and a front-facing face recognition camera. And you would ask, why would you need both of those features to unlock your phone? And then the reason for that is that face recognition doesn't always work as expected. For example, it isn't able to recognize me with glasses. So I've had to default to the fingerprint reader a couple of times. So now let's move into the bad. So I'm gonna start again with the camera. Some stuff is clearly superior on iPhone, like slow motion. So this phone has up to 960 frames per second. That's like a super slow motion. That is recorded on 720p, so it's regular HD, not full HD. But the quality of the video is very, very poor. It seems out of focus. The colors are very, very faded. It doesn't look like a 720p video by any measure. You can have a regular 720p video and then switch to super slow motion, and you would very well notice where the cut happened because the quality changes completely. Now, iPhone doesn't have 960 frames per second. You would call that an advantage, but if you compare side to side on 240 frames per second, which is something that iPhone does support on full HD, the iPhone is still superior. Definition is much better, sharpness is much better, colors are much better. So you're sort of stretching the camera to its limits to be able to record 240, and you can tell, the phone can't really handle it. And then there are a bunch of cool features on the camera that I believe, were sort of useless. So for example, the camera is able to recognize what you're taking a picture of, whether it's food or landscape or whatnot. I don't feel like it makes any difference in the results of the photo. The problem, I think, is that it overcomplicates the camera app. So the camera app is complicated to use, to say the least. For example, if you set your camera resolution to 40 megapixels, for some reason it blocks out the zoom, or it blocks out switching to the other cameras, which doesn't make sense to me. I wouldn't expect to have to go and change it myself. Some other annoyances, pre-installed software on Android. It reminded me of old times with when I purchased a PC that had some trial software that you would need to get rid of or pay. So this phone came with Booking.com and eBay for some reason, which honestly annoyed the hell out of me. There's also some duplicate functions. So Huawei has this EMUI system that they install on top of Android, and it has duplicate functions for a lot of things. So there's Gmail, like the actual Android-owned Gmail app, which is what I ended up using, and there's another Huawei Mail, and there's no clarification on which is which. And then, for example, the default is set to the Huawei. So even though I set up Gmail, moving from other apps into Mail sometimes costs to go to the default Huawei, which I had not set up. And so you need to handle two separate IDs. So you have your Huawei ID and you have your Google Play ID, which is probably going to be confusing for a lot of people. So this EMUI thing doesn't work that well. Some Android-specific annoyances, for example, having to accept multiple terms of service for some reason. So even though you accept your terms of service, terms of use when you connect the phone and set it up, whenever you log into Chrome for the first time, you also need to accept Chrome terms of service, and so on with some other apps, which again is rather annoying, especially if they're like the default Android Google option. Another annoyance, another bad about the phone is it didn't really play well with my car. So I'm able to connect my phone to my car, and you can stream music. And then usually when I'm driving, what I do is I don't grab the phone and just ask Siri to play music. That doesn't really work well with this phone. First of all, the car didn't really recognize it. This is a rather new car. It's not like this old radio that would be incompatible. So it won't recognize the phone. It won't recognize the song. And then OK Google didn't work as well because you needed to unlock the phone for OK Google to work or to be able to play music, which obviously is not feasible when you're driving. Now moving into the ugly, which is functionality that really annoyed the hell out of me and that I would consider a deal breaker. So first of all, iMessage. I'm very used to using iMessage. I prefer iMessage over WhatsApp. I think it's much more simple, more responsive, cleaner interface. And most conversations with my family or my close friends are handled via iMessage. So without notifying them that I was switching phones, I just moved everything to WhatsApp. And then a lot of conversations where you sort of met a dead end. Another big annoyance was the lack of a wallet/GPay functionality here. I use Apple Wallet a lot. I have a bunch of coupon cards, and my Starbucks card is there, and I use it for plane tickets. I took a flight during this experiment. Airline tickets land on Passbook, and they have this automatic ticket that you add to your wallet. You just double tap and you show it at the door. But there's just nothing similar to that on this phone. There is a wallet by Huawei, like part of these EMUI interface, but you need to create this Huawei ID, and I just didn't bother to set it up. I knew that many of these airline tickets were not going to work here, so I just didn't bother doing it. And the phone doesn't really support GPay at all. It's not listed as a compatible device, so that's a shame. Now another ugly, and this is really ugly, their very sad attempt at Animoji. I mean, I don't use Animoji that much, but then these guys tried to build this crappy Animoji on top of this phone, but the face recognition is just really poor. The characters are really, really creepy, and then the animation is just not smooth at all. I think it just goes in detriment of the experience. It's more like a bad copycat. I just don't do it at all. So one of the biggest issues as well was security. So my phone is a big part of my productivity. I'm connected to my Stripe account, which is the revenue account for my business, and we invoice thousands of people through Stripe. And then I need to make sure that my phone is fully secure. During the phone presentation and when they gave me the phone, they talked a lot about the security features, but I'm still not 100% sure. It is well known that a bunch of apps in the Google Play Store have Trojans or viruses in them. I had to be extra careful with the apps that I downloaded. As a matter of fact, I only downloaded apps that I also use in my phone that are crucial to my productivity. But I, for example, didn't download any games just in that concern that something would get hacked. And I know that there's this secure enclave chip on the phone that's supposed to protect some of your personal information and whatnot, but I don't know if this chip protects information stored on other apps. For example, my logins to my bank accounts that are stored on my Bank of America app. So I'm not really sure, and I wasn't really gonna risk it. And then that's extended to this whole issue with Huawei where it's been banned from certain countries. Could it be a political issue? Yes, but Huawei was banned from New Zealand. The government halted this process for Huawei to build and provide cell phone towers for the country. It's obviously banned in the US. And it might be a political issue, but if it is grounded in some security concerns about the Chinese spying via Huawei devices, I certainly didn't want to risk that. So this is an annoyance that I really shouldn't have to worry about, to be honest. And then finally, and this is probably like the final reason that made me choose which phone I was keeping, incompatibility with my device environment. So I own an Apple Watch, which I had to stop using for these few months. I own Apple TVs in both of the TVs in my apartment. I own a Mac. And then this phone didn't really play well with neither of those devices. So one thing that I do often is I'm watching a video on YouTube and then I want to watch it on the TV and then I just AirPlay that video to the TV. I could do this if I had a Chromecast, but I don't have one and I'm not gonna go and buy a new set of devices. So that is one that I think most people that are living on an Apple environment will find extremely annoying. You can't send files easily from your computer to your phone. I would normally do that via AirDrop, but here you would probably have to send an email or upload that file to Google Drive and then re-download, which is certainly extra steps. And this stuff really hurt my productivity. Like I post regularly on Instagram. There are a lot of things that I start on a computer and pick up the phone or vice versa. Those little things on productivity were what ended up making up my mind. So I really appreciate and I really thank Huawei for giving me the chance to try this. But it would seem that I'm gonna have to return it and keep my iPhone 10.